And it was so groundbreaking because, of course, before you there was Venom, Black Sabbath, but what you did was taking this to another level, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. We didn't even know what was going to happen because we were so pure that when we get our instruments, and it was kind of very random gear too, like we didn't pick gears, we ended up with some gear that just by random. But eventually, like why we bought the heavy metal zone heavy metal 2 or this distortion pedals and stuff. I don't know, we like that kind of sound, or and we cranked the amplifiers to where we thought they sounded the best, and so it's all kind of amateurish fiddling around, but fiddling around towards somewhere we liked. And it was obvious to us when we listened to Venom and stuff that this was rock and roll. We were much more brutal than that, we liked the more brutal things. We didn't like the rock and roll parts. We've zoomed in on the more brutal parts. And then that became what we did. And it was wild times. We were also crossover between the punk and the metal, because we were into the hardcore punk at the time. Especially also the ones that we call that the crossover bands like GBH, and that had Exploited and later on, like also some of the American bands, Black Flag and those. But so when we plugged in, and then when we made music, it just came out like that. I like a lot of type of music, but when I make music, this comes out for some reason.
Yeah.
And we were heavily inspired by Motorhead and Venom and everything we could suck up at the time. Also, like early Celtic Frost, I guess, like an early Bathory. We were happening at the same time. We just found those bands as similar to us,
Yeah.
But of course, we do also, like probably maybe subconsciously some of their ideas too. But basically, it was Venom, that opened the door for this idea, about this extreme music. And then when we did that, a lot of other bands jumped on it. And that's what they call the second part. Also the reinventing of what they call now the true Norwegian black metal.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of what I think is most acceptable to say is that we kind of reinvented what Venom came up with. But we had our own touch to it, and then other people, so that was the second generation, let's say, of the black metal.
And I also like the fact that although you were very hard and very aggressive from the beginning, you were very open to other styles. I mean, even on Death Crash, you had a song written by Konrad Schnitzler from Tangerine Dream.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, no, that goes out to, like exactly what I say. We listen to anything, but we were drawn to uncommercial music. Like, for example, Konrad Schnitzler, who was onto these electronical things. He would make albums in 1,000 copies and stuff. I just got a phone. Typically, at this moment. Yeah. Where were we?
We're talking about Konrad Schnitzler. I mean, I think I heard a story that you came to him and asked him to write for you, right? That was the story?
Story was that Øystein was the super fan. I like some of the stuff that he introduced me to, Konrad Schnitzler and Tangerine Dream, Brian Schultz, Brian Eno, and all these electric these bands, these people from the 70s. 60s, 70s. So he went to Berlin. He had his address, and he went to Berlin to collect albums, and he thought that if he went close enough to where they lived, the secondhand shops would have their rare albums. Like there was only, some of them was only pressed in 10 copies and 100 copies and stuff, you know, so it's impossible to get them. So he thought that that would maybe be the way, plus that he had the address of the guy. So he went over to his place, rang the doorbell. The story is that from Conrad was that his wife had looked in the window and said to Conrad, "There's a long-haired guy standing on our doorstep." And Conrad had said, "Don't let him in. We'll just pretend we're not home." And then in the morning, they found him sleeping on the doormat, still there, you know. And then they were like, "What to do?" You know, like, and the wife had said, "Let's invite him in for a cup of tea." So they did, and then they realized that this is some kind of Uber fan, you know, and they get to talk about music and stuff, and Øystein gets a bunch of records that he gets or buys from him, or I don't know, but at least he had shitloads of albums from that encounter, and then subconsciously also start to be in contact with him. So when the time comes in 1987 that we have recorded our Death Crush, the idea was to contact Conrad to see if he can make some kind of an intro, and then we got that Sylvester Anfang back, which is this kind of electronic drum thingy, and we thought like, wow, this is fucking excellent. This suits very well, we thought. And many years later, I realized, and from an interview Conrad did, that he hadn't even, he said, that he regretted not to listening to the tape of our music before he sent us this composition. And I thought that was kind of mind-blowing, that he just sent this thing, which suited and fitted in so well into this that he didn't even know what we sounded like. That was fucking mind-blowing, really, in the terms where that it, you know, now it became some kind of a, I don't know, we used it as intro for hundreds of concerts for over the years and stuff too. So, but in the end, he got aware of it, and I know that our old drummer, Malnheim, reached out to him. He had actually some projects together in the later years, and we would start to talk about that we should bring Conrad to perform that song live in Oslo. And when that idea was born, and he just, at that time, he died, passed away from old age, I think. So fortunately we didn't make that happen, but yeah, no, we that was just an example. That great that you know, like, brought that up, but because we were listening to everything, all kinds of music styles, but we were listening to for something raw, some kind of raw energy. Also in symphonic music, there's a lot of very heavy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the songs that I think epitomize not only Mayhem but also black metal to me is pure fucking Armageddon, because it's so raw, so aggressive. Like, do you remember any story behind this song? Was it spontaneous?
Absolutely. Yeah, I wrote the song. I remember exactly what happened. What happened was that we just got that In the Sign of Evil from Sodom, their first EP. There was a song called Sepulchral Voice, and it's so extremely fast. And we thought, Øystein and me, when we were listening to it, we were like, fuck. We set out to the rehearsal place the very next day to make a song that was faster than that song. Because up until then, that was the fastest song we ever heard. And that became Pure Fucking Armageddon. And actually, Mannheim also wrote one of the riffs there on the guitar. So it was a joint Mayhem thing. And but it was spawned out of the fact that we came to rehearsal place with an aim to write a fast track, which is one of the first songs we ever wrote too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first song we wrote was a song called Goal, and then the second one might have been Carnage. So maybe this was the fourth song we ever made or something like